And I was very excited when I saw that Whiskers of Winter was coming out. So you may have guessed this game, different protagonists, although the former protagonist, King Reggie, does show up later on in the game based on some of the stuff I've seen. The first game takes place in a more southern area, features the frogs as the main enemies. You're kind of in more swampy areas. This one is further north, and your main enemies are the Darkwings. I know what everyone's thinking. No, they're not ducks. The Darkwings are actually bats, and they're really, really cool enemies. Some of them larger ones, like, some of the Darkwings will ride other Darkwings, and the rideable ones are like almost dragon-like, and that they're like, spit ice breath. So instead of like fire, they spit ice, or they spit ice breath. It's pretty cool. So the bats themselves are actually pretty cool enemies. I actually like them better than the frogs. But in general, the game, Tales of Iron has always had pretty good enemies and bosses. So you do fight some of the frogs, so the frogs aren't completely out of the picture. And you fight the grubs and just some of the enemies from the first game as well. So it's kind of an expansion of the enemy list. Tricky, you will not want to play this game because there are spiders. They're called tail spinners in this game. Just go ahead and throw it out there, warn you. So the game itself very much feels like the first one. Combat, there are a few changes, but for the most part, the core mechanics are the same. You still have to figure out, based on on-screen indicators, whether you can dodge an attack, whether you need to parry an attack, or whether you need to block an attack. So again, challenging combat, a game kind of like a mix of a Metroidvania with like Soulsborne style combat, just exploration based. You gain access to areas as you get later on in the game. There is some backtracking, of course, in a Metroidvania style game, and then also the combat. Basically, kind of trial and error. You fight a boss, you may beat some of the bosses first time, but there's others where you're going to have to practice at it and just get better. And that's just the way the game is. There are 3 different difficulties. There's an easy difficulty, a Tales of Iron difficulty, which is kind of their normal, and then Bloody Whiskers. For the Platinum Trophy for this game, you do not need Bloody Whiskers. You do not need to play on a certain difficulty.